Gather your tools, blankets, blocks, strap, anything else you want. I think it's time. Hey, Lisa, I'm glad you made it. And who else is here? Michelle's here. What a nice little crowd we got going on the Facebook group. And we have a couple in the Zoom. I guess it's just the one in the Zoom. Welcome, Amanda. Okay, without further ado, we shall get started tonight. We are actually going to start in a squat. So you could either sit on a bolster or sit on your blocks, or a combination of blocks and bolster, depending on how high you want that squat to be. It's a little wobbly, but I'm going to give it a try. Adjust your lighting and your music and whatever you need to be content tonight. This is Rest and Restore Happier Hour. I'm just going to do kind of a handful of different things to give us kind of a full body talking to. So as you settle into that squat, make sure you don't feel overly stretched in this position, like around your hips and low back, and just casually rest your arms wherever they land. Drop your eyes closed if you want to. Notice how your breath is as you're just arriving into your practice. Mine feels a little discombobulated. I'm sensing some kind of heaving in the chest and shoulders, so it might take me a while to get settled here. If you want to slow things down even more with your breath, we're going to take it out of the nose. And you could also make just kind of a soft restriction in the throat. So it's not overly compressed, but just enough to create that little soft sighing sound. Keep your jaw smooth. Soften around your forehead and around your eyes, your cheekbones. If you feel inclined, you could take some side to side reaches with your head. Just coaxing a little bit of stretch on the lateral cervical spine. And maybe backing away from the deepest position. And that kind of goes for the whole practice tonight. Let's see if we can challenge ourselves in a way that feels a bit more restrained, more subdued, less reaching, less pushing and pulling, and instead just kind of letting go of goals, being a little bit more forgiving, offering grace, patience. And you can bring your head back on straight and just turn the head right and left, nice and easy. Eyes could stay closed here, or you could let your eyes lead you into that rotation as well. Once you come back to the center from that last rotation, let your arms hang beside you. And we'll just do a few shoulder shrugs or even some gentle circles. Trying to get those shoulder blades to slide and glide along the rib cage. Can go both ways. And then you can tip forward any amount just so that you can get your arms kind of wedged inside your legs, and your hands could be in a prayer pose, or if that bothers your wrist, you might just place one hand over your fist. Legs can be nice and wide here. And then let's just use the arms to pull the legs just a little wider. And you can resist back slightly with the strength of your hips, just a really low level resisted stretch. And then as you come back up, we're going to take a little side stretch. So what I'm going to do is pin one arm inside to kind of turn and twist open to that opposite side, and then take it up and over into a side bend. So there's a hint of rotation, but it's an open twist rather than a closed twist. Top arm could bend. You could hide that hand behind your head and then really reach through your armpit, triceps. Try to keep pelvis pretty balanced. And come back to the center and do the same thing on the other side. Notice if the front part of your rib cage starts to flare open, and just try to keep that more contained so we can isolate more lateral stretch rather than sneaking in spine extension, which is fairly typical for me. And then we're going to take it into an actual cross-body twist. Your arms might just help hold you there, but try to keep some core awareness as well. Rotate the other way. And doesn't matter which way you rotate first. I think not, because it's been probably a long day and you've probably twisted hundreds of times, not worrying about which way came first. Now as you come through center, let's imagine for a moment that we have maybe like a grapefruit or some ball about that size right between chin and chest, and we're going to try to not nod the head to drop that ball or to squeeze it too hard. And instead, we're going to try to move here from the center of like the sternum in a cat-cow-like movement. So puff up your chest and pull it forward. Do what you want with your arms. They could kind of help you. And then scoop back with that sternum and try to round through your upper back without overly tucking the chin. Once again, lengthening and lifting. Shoulders can slide down. And the gaze might eventually flick up, but we're not dropping the head back here. So it's just right through this T-spine. Let's try 2 more like that. Stretching the front as we lift the chest. And then finding that back line stretch as we tuck. Final one like that. And then just neutralize your spine. You don't have to be strict with your form. You're going to need your strap or a similar object. In the right hand to start, overhead, behind you, and then the left arm is going to turn inward, that internal shoulder rotation, and you're going to hold the strap. And even if you could hold with your hands, let's hold on the strap today, because we're going to do just a gentle isometric awareness. Is your neck in a good position? If not, if it's kind of pulling you forward, then lighten up or move the hands away from each other rather, so you have a little bit more slack in that strap. So you're not trying to do too much here. Really gently, like let's say 20% max effort. Imagine you're trying to stretch that yoga strap so it's a little bit longer. It's not going to change shape. It's merely feeling that shoulder activation. Keep what you have with that low level, and then take a side bend to your left. Inhale back to center. Exhale, side bend left. Let's inhale here now, and exhale, rise to vertical. A couple more like that. Inhale into that side stretch. Exhale, release to vertical. One more. And then release the band, the strap, set it down anywhere, and just let your hands hang. You could rotate your wrists. And then we'll switch sides. Left arm's reaching up and back, like you're going to stretch your triceps. Right arm's going to reach behind. Oops. Try to keep back pretty straight, front rib cage still relatively nestled down, and find that gentle tug of the arms in opposite directions. Right arm trying to pull down slightly, the left arm's trying to reach up slightly. Inhale here. Exhale, we side bend right. Try that one again. Inhale, center. Exhale right and hold for a second, and we're going to inhale here. Exhale, straighten it up. Twice more like that. Final one. Okay, wonderful. We are going to make our way to a seat, and you're going to need your blanket and potentially blocks and bolsters, depending on how you want to build this. So I'm going to start with nothing for now, and then we're going to take some gentle mobilizing wipers before we get into a little bit of a yin pose. So start to rock the legs right and left. You can let the pelvis twist a little bit if that feels good. Noticing if one leg does a little better at that internal rotation. Is there any crunchiness in there? Always trying to work through that pain-free range of motion without forcing anything. And then we'll need to prep our blanket for this one. So you're going to try to make a long skinny roll, but not as long as the blanket. So what I've done here is I quartered my blanket, and then I rolled it up from the long side instead of the short side like I would normally do. So get something that's about, I don't know, what is that, 3 feet long or so? Find a really loose butterfly position with the legs, so more like a diamond shape as your feet come together. And then we're going to lay that blanket roll over the top of ankles and hook the ends around the lower legs, just for a little bit of support there, kind of swaddling the ankles. Do we get that? Blanket on top, hook underneath. And we are going to take a forward fold here. So first, it might be nice to make sure you can sit so that your pelvis is going to tip forward rather than rock underneath you. And then it could look something like this. Obviously, you could just fold forward. This is what I'm talking about with this thing being too big. You could create some sort of a ramp for your bolster. A block underneath the bolster, the block connected to the blanket, and then you could just lay over it. But if it feels okay for you to just kind of fold over your legs and maybe use 1 or 2 blocks underneath your head, that could be fine too. And this one we are going to hold for a little while. So you're going to want to be sure that you're fairly comfortable, not too far in, to give yourself a little bit of somewhere to go. So we're going to try for like 4 or 5 minutes on this one. With these long of holds, it's not unlikely that you might experience some discomfort. And as long as it's just kind of an annoyance and not true, like sharp pain, electrical pain, I'll leave it up to you to decide and decipher. But you can always come out if it gets to be too intense. Arms can just lay over the legs. Sometimes I like to kind of tuck my arms underneath my legs. And we're going to drop into our own silence, our own inner landscape as we find that yin quality of stillness and surrender. Feel your breath moving into your back. I encourage you to explore just a little bit more length in your exhales. Keep it casual on the inhale, and then just soothe and smooth that outpouring of breath. Make it last. Now, since we've been here a while and the muscles have been kind of relaxed, let's be super easy coming out and give ourselves some support from the arms, so the back doesn't have to do any heavy lifting. Neutralize as you rise. Stack your shoulders over your hips and the crown of your head right over your heart. Next up, we're going to work into a little spine extension. So we'll want our blanket the other way now. So we're going to get a little bit of a fatter roll. If you have a smaller blanket, this blanket is huge, so I think I'm actually going to roll it the long way again, but you could roll it from like the tasseled side for a little bit of a fatter roll. And then with this one, there's a couple different ways to organize the pose. And you should choose the version that feels better for you. That roll could go laterally on your mat, and it could land about where your bra strap is, underneath the bottom tip of your shoulder blades. You could also arrange the blanket so that it's vertical and that you're just laying down on it. Pelvis could be on or off. Head could be on or off. Okay, so maybe you play around with both of those versions just for like a few breaths and see which one you like better. I'm actually going to put my bolster underneath my legs while I'm in this one to take some of the weight off of my low back. If you didn't have a bolster, you could just throw some blocks underneath you, or a couple of pillows. And we're going to have another, let's try for 5 minutes on this one. Arms can be at that cactus shape, or you could even just keep them neutral, hands to belly or ribs. The default here would be to experience a more front body focused breath. So to counteract for that, let's just in our mind try to seek out more of a side body expansion. And you might really feel that connection between your blanket and the backside of your ribs as well. So you could try to consciously spread the breath back there. Drop your eyes closed. Watch and sense your breath like a wave. We are coming up on our last few breaths here. Might feel nice to reach your arms overhead, especially if they've been down by your side. And then before we come up off of that roll, let's create just a little bit of a front body curl up. Head and shoulders are going to come up off the ground. And you could hold your head with your arms, or you could just bring your arms out in front of you. And then we're going to take this little tiny side to side scrubbing along that back side. Like you're doing a little twist through the shoulders and the upper back. Might feel a little rib stretch there. And just a really mild myofascial scrubbing on the back. Just a few more. Plus your abs are going to get ripped. Okay, maybe it takes a few more reps. And then we'll just have to come up off of that blanket to get it out from underneath us. And before you head back down to the ground, make sure you have your yoga strap nearby. Set aside the bolster for now. If you want something underneath your head, you could do that. For our hamstring work, we're going to take it more into, we're going to start with that straight leg hamstring stretch, but then we're going to take it across the body and or into that inner thigh stretch as we take the leg out to the side. So let's start with the left leg grounded and the right leg in the loop, or just holding your foot with that strap. So you can do it any way you like. Find that first edge of tension on the back of your thigh. Earlier in the day, I was doing a single leg bridge and this right leg got a cramp in my hamstrings. They still feel a little bit unimpressed. So we want to gently coax our nervous system into these ranges without forcing them. So we're going to spend just 1 minute with a straight leg. Straight-ish leg. Try to find natural back curves, and if bending your left knee helps you find those, that's cool. You don't have to have that left leg stretched all the way out necessarily. And by all means, if you can get that right leg closer to your trunk than I have mine, feel free to explore your range. But it's also fine just to stay super conservative. And then the first variation is we're going to externally rotate this whole thigh. Imagine you have an X right on your kneecap and you're trying to turn that X towards that diagonal behind you. So toes are going to angle out. And then you're going to pull your right leg across your body just enough till you start to feel that fascial stretch on the outer seam of that right leg. So for that one, we do want to try to keep the hip all the way down on the ground. We are going to twist later, so we don't have to turn this one into a twist just yet. If the front of your right hip ever feels congested at all, just move your leg further away from you. Two more breaths here. And then if your hands need a break, definitely take one. For the third variation, you could either make yourself the hammock with a longer lasso that goes behind your head, or we're going to take the leg out to the side, which you won't want that around your head. If your bolster is nearby or your yoga blocks and you want to set those out here to the right side so that your leg can rest on that, cool. Otherwise, just hold it with your strap. Don't be too fussy about keeping any certain rotation. Just let your leg kind of find a spot that feels sustainable. The more you pull those toes towards that wall behind you, the more intense of a stretch you're going to experience. 1 minute here. Now's a nice time to check back in with your breathing. Has there been any subtle changes on your radar? Let's reset. Reset your body to a neutral position throughout the hips, pelvis, shoulders, neck. Interlace your fingers all the way to the webbing, and then press your palms towards the ceiling right above your chest. Rotate your ankles. Just take a brief rest. Any position, if you prefer to move, you could take some little rocks or wipers. Let's move on to the left. Neutral position to begin. You could split the right leg all the way down, but if that brings you into too much spinal expression, then perhaps you keep that right leg grounded in a bent position. Let's find that subtle rotation, gentle spiral external rotation. Keep the back of your pelvis down and just take that leg across a few degrees. Once you feel what you want to feel, drop into some time here. If you're feeling crowded in that front hip, you could even take your left hand to the top of your left thigh and just gently press away, giving yourself a little bit of traction. Leg as straight as you can make it. Trying to keep spiraling outward if possible. And settle back into that neutral hip position. Option to take the hammock, or you're going to sweep your leg out to the side. Maybe you land it on something. Or you can just hold it with that strap. Try to keep the right side nestled down so your pelvis really doesn't change position too much. Time flies when you're having stretchy fun. Let's bring it back to the center. And then take what you need as some sort of a release or a gentle mobilization. And this next bit, we're going to come back to the shoulders. So we're going to stay on our back and duplicate that Gomukhasana position of the arms. So your left arm is actually going to wind up underneath you, but we're going to keep that arm pretty casual. So palm facing down, maybe underneath your sacrum, underneath your lower back is fine, or you could pull the fingertips up to the area between your shoulder blades. Right arm is going to start by rotating externally. And then you're going to bend your elbow and curl off the floor and try to reach that arm underneath your right shoulder. And then when you lay down, your head's going to lay maybe close to your hand or your forearm if you're in a little bit deeper position here. Now your legs could just be casual and neutral, or you could take that Baddha Konasana position with the legs, or the butterfly, I guess you could call it. About halfway through this first round, can you breathe into that left hand a little bit more? And there's no need to restrict the other areas of your core as far as that breath is concerned. We just want to try to find a little bit more, adding to that back body expansion. 2 more cycles in and out. And then roll a little bit towards your right, just so you can get that left arm out from underneath you. And then as you release out of that, let's bring the knees up towards trunk, cross our arms, and hold the opposite knee. And then try to pull your legs wide so you get just a little bit of a stretch, hopefully, in the arms. And your knees are just staying bent here. Kind of like Happy Baby, but with that crisscross in the arms. Seeking out to lengthen the low back a little bit. So you don't have to force it, but if you're really curvy in the low back, you might think about almost lifting your tailbone slightly. Moving on, second round, Gomukhasana. Roll a little to the left. If that helps you hide that right arm underneath you, your palm is going to touch down on your mat, back of the hand near your back. Anywhere. The lower is going to be a little easier, higher is going to be more intense. And then curl up. Rotate your left palm to the wall behind you. Bend and reach, fingertips down your back, creating a little bit of a landing pad for your head. You could take a little internal hip rotation on this one, feet wide, knees resting inward towards one another. Two to three more slow breath cycles. And then to escape that right arm, tip it a little to the left. And then this time, instead of the cross arm position with the hands, we'll bring the knees back up to where they were, neutralize the back. Hands are going to go on the same side knee. And then for now, we're just going to split the legs from front to back. Kind of pushing and pulling, letting the arms guide you, but also feeling some connection to the hips and pelvis. And we're going to start to circle the legs in opposite directions. So you're going to start with a split. As the right knee heads forward away from you, left knee pulls back. Now sweep the legs apart and start to create a circular motion. Right leg is going to pull into the chest, left leg is going to scoop away. And then the legs will pass in the middle as we split again. Keep rotating. Like ships passing in the night, those legs are going to come together in the middle and then move away. The next time they come together in the middle, reverse the direction. This doesn't have to be an overly large path. Can you just move the hips and keep your back out of it for these next two? A little stricter. And then squeeze your knees together, inner thighs together. Take the knees together in a circle, feeling your lower back. Scrubbing against the floor, almost like a slight twist. Go the other way. And then we are going to move into twists. So you may wish to have some supports in this one. We're going to start with a staggered stance, almost like you would for your wipers, feet nice and wide. And then let the legs rock to the right. Shoulders and ribs are going to stay set. And then let's try tonight to take the bottom leg, which is your right leg, to gently lay on top of your left thigh. But if that's too much rotation in that left hip, you're going to wedge your block underneath your left leg so it doesn't go so deep. And then just kind of let your pelvis twist a little bit. I've had a couple students that don't particularly care for this arrangement. So if you know a better way, this is more about hips and less about the spine twist. So if you're craving a spine twist, just change your legs and build that for yourself. You could even put a block underneath the outside of your right thigh. How do you want to organize your arms? Let go of any control of your breath and just see what happens. Draw your attention towards left armpit, left rear ribs, and continue to trickle your awareness down that left side until it lands first in your hip and then all the way down towards your knee. Left side awareness, just breathing. Let's uncross the legs, ground your feet, and then pull your hips a little more towards the left. Tuck your right leg under you more. That bottom leg, try to squeeze your heel a little bit closer to your seat, and then let your left leg come across, either bent or straight. If you've got the right body proportions here, you could even get a hold of that left foot with your right hand and then let your left shoulder lay back down. I've got my yoga block underneath that left leg just so I don't get beyond where I want to be in my left hip. Just making this more now about spine twisting. We're going to travel back to neutral and set your feet how you would set them if you were going to do a bridge, but you're not going to do a bridge. Walk your legs in, your feet in just a little bit more than normal maybe. Hands are going to press into the front of your thigh, kind of right where your pelvis and your leg meet up. So thumbs to the inside, hands to the outside, and then just press straight forward on your legs. Feeling a little of that traction again through the lumbar, maybe even up a little higher. And then let's repeat that on the second side. Legs wide, knees bent. Like you're headed to wipers, take them left. One block can be underneath the right leg. I like it about at my knee. Left ankle crosses over, and then maybe that second block underneath your left leg. Purely optional. Settle in. Bring your awareness to right side, from the back ribs and armpit area, through your thoracic rib cage, side waistline, front of the hip, top of the thigh, down to your knee. A ribbon of breath, soothing that whole right side. And let's turn this into the spine twist. Might have to reorganize your space. Left leg is going to tuck further underneath you as your hips shuffle a little to the right. And then that right leg can come up and over any amount, keeping it bent or maybe trying to work it towards straight. allowing the breath just to be a little bit more natural here, not trying to chase a depth, not trying to force a sound, feeling it so light, but soothing and nourishing. We think of our breath sometimes as this mechanical action, which it definitely is, but it's also kind of medicine for the mind. A friend to a nervous system and our emotional layer, a partner, a confidant, definitely a friend to our physical practice and meditation. Take your time coming out of this rotation nice and slow. Maybe one leg, that top leg might come out first. And then tonight we're actually going to take a side lying position on our left side. You may wish to have your blanket underneath your head, your bolster between your knees, or underneath that top leg. And let's try to make a little bit of a fetal pose, if possible. Eyes can close. Curve into yourself a little bit. Just let yourself be effortless. Soft breath, heavy body. If you're working with a mantra or an affirmation, you can drip that in. And then receive your rest. keep your mind occupied with the sensation of your soft breath, and you don't need to change anything physically just yet unless you really want to. It's going to be the witness there, sensing how your body is connected to the floor, maybe in a different way than normal. Feeling the length on your backside. Breathing into your backside. Reconnecting to that mantra or that affirmation that you created for your short rest. Invite that to guide you as you pack up your workspace from your yoga practice so that you can take it with you wherever you go next. And share this positive and subdued energy with everyone you connect with. I'm going to leave you here. You can come up when you're ready. There's no rush. My guidance is now complete. Hope you have an awesome rest of your evening or your day, taking care of yourself. Thanks for being here. Namaste.